This is Corolla DeVille, and you're watching Inkwife TV. This is my coworker Thad, and I began a large cover-up on his arm a couple of weeks ago. He's never had a tattoo in a real tattoo shop, even though he's been a tattoo artist for more than 10 years. So anyway, I'm giving him his first professional tattoo, and it's going to be a big cover-up to go over all of his old work. In session 1, we put all of the outline in place and got the work done on the skull. I put out a video on the first session, and what you're watching now is a quick recap of that, and then it will continue with the work that I have done in the second session. Everything that I used for the cover-up was solid black and various shades of true gray, except I put a little turquoise in the eyes because I like the glowing effect, and I love it when you've got some good dark black and gray. And you just put a subtle hint of color in a few places to break up the monotony. A few white highlights, and the piece is finished for session 1. And for session 2, I decided I wanted to put a geometric piece in the background behind the samurai helmet. So I began session 2 with outlining that piece. I could have gone straight into working on the helmet, but to be quite honest, I was very, very excited about this design that I'm going to put up on the cap of his shoulder. And I just couldn't stand it and wanted to go ahead and start working on it. So I started with that to get the excitement out of my system. The thing I was the most worried about was tattooing accidentally over the samurai helmet. But luckily, that did not happen. It came out great. I also wanted to go ahead and give the shape some dimension because, again, I was just very, very excited to put a little something up there. And so I went ahead and got out my 23 curved mag and put all of the solid black into the places where it goes up on the shoulder. Then it was time to finish up the helmet. Right now I am using a 23 curved mag, and I am running my machine at about 4.8 to 5 volts and just softly going over all of the areas that I wanted dark with solid black ink. The machine is just running very, very softly, so I can still get some soft fades even though I'm using solid black and not any gray wash at all. To make a cover-up, a black and gray cover-up, effective, you need to use as much black in the shading as possible because the whole tattoo is going to have to be opaque. So you have to work with solid black and true grays, dark true grays, and then add your white in and make them lighter. Gray wash is not opaque enough to work effectively on a cover-up like this, where it's really got to be solid and opaque to make all of that nonsense in the background go away. I needed some shading up on the horns, so I drew on where I wanted the shadow to go with a marker. And then, again, with the mag and some dynamic black ink, I began my shading. I was a little worried about the texture of the old tattoo showing through this part on the horn because they're so long and smooth. But by the end of it, I'm able to get it to pretty much all go away, and anything that is left showing through, your eye will be tricked into thinking that it's an imperfection in the metal or it's some sort of added reflection that is, gives a little bit of, it almost gives a little bit more realism by the time it gets through with it. For the medallion on the front of the helmet, there's a cluster of snakes up there. And first thing I needed to do was put a little darkness in the background so that the snakes will begin to stand out. Now we begin to work in some of our true grays to, this will help disguise and hide and mute out the remaining bit of the old tattoo that you can still see showing through sometimes. I run my machine really softly because it helps the ink to lay thick and opaque in the upper layers of the skin. This helps a lot with hiding the old tattoo. And when you use the true gray, see the old tattoo behind it already has a gray tone. So the true gray, it's not very dark at all, but it helps the skin achieve a more even tone. So it just helps to hide the old tattoo. And you got to be a little skilled with this. You might have to go darker in between where the old tattoo shadows are. Just pick at it until that old tattoo in the background disappears, and your eye just doesn't really catch it much anymore. You have to have a lot of drama in your color, a lot of dark to light fades to get that old tattoo pattern to disappear. One thing I'd like to point out is that the skeleton at the bottom is about 3 weeks old, so it is completely healed, and you can see that the old tattoo just doesn't show through at all. It completely blends with the skull that is up on the front. To work the details into the little snakes, I got out an 11 round liner, and I'm still running my machine very low, so it just peppers it gently into the skin. And then I went in and started working with my white highlights, which is my favorite part because the tattoo really starts to become more three-dimensional when you get those whites in there. I love using a big fat round liner to put white highlights in because it just makes such a bold white color, and the machine runs low and slow, and this is sped up, but my hand is moving really quite slow, and I can feel every time it's peppering and hitting the skin, and so it just makes a good strong saturated white on top of all the other ink that I have laid in. And it heals and it stands out really well. You can see on the skull below that the white highlights have stayed in very well. And I may go over them at the end after I finish the geometric piece at the top, go over the white on the skull and the helmet just to bring it forward even more. When you put that second layer of white in there, it really becomes opaque and brings the tattoo forward. When I get to put the final white highlights in on the snake, I feel like it really starts to look super cool. I love little tiny white details because it just really makes things start to pop. And if you can get things small and delicate and detailed and get your shadows in there, you can make some pretty convincing pieces of art. This about finishes it up for this piece. And we'll be working on session 2 again, hopefully in a couple of weeks. As soon as a client cancels, I'm sure Thad will be sitting in my chair going, please, it's my turn now. So we'll be putting out more work on his arm. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.